All right, well, it's 2 o'clock on the dot here on the West Coast, so we can go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to the Mylio Photos Coffee Break. I'm Angela Andrieux. Most of you guys know me, but for those of you who are new, my job is to help you be successful with the software, and that includes everything from writing our product manual. I do live events like this, training videos, and a lot more, but I'm here to answer your questions and make sure that you guys are able to accomplish what you want to do with Mylio Photos. So with that, let's jump into today's topic. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And right now we are in my Mylio Photos library, and today's topic is 3 reasons why you should be using categories in Mylio Photos. So I'm going to kind of go over the reasons really quick, and then we'll go in a little bit more in depth on how you can use them. So the first reason I recommend using them is they're very easy to add and they're highly customizable. There's a lot of options and you can really make them fit your workflow. The second is once those categories are added, you can use QuickFilters to quickly filter for certain category images, videos, and documents, and even hide certain categories if you don't want to see those. The last one is because we have a really big new feature coming in version 24. If you're a member of our community and in the insiders group, you might have seen an article about this recently about spaces. And spaces are going to be powered by categories and actually use categories to turn your Mylio photos into different workspaces. So you can have a work space. So all of your work photos, all of your personal photos, all your family photos. And if you're a Mylio Photos Plus subscriber, you can even add custom spaces so you can have different devices with access to different images. And this is great. So if you're sharing your library with other people in your family. So let's go ahead and jump back to the beginning and talk about how you can add and customize those categories. So the first thing I want to do here is I've got a bunch of new images that I took this last week. For a little bit of context, I was traveling to the East Coast and I was in a recording studio with JC, who's our head of support, and Rich Harrington, who is our head of product, and we were recording new videos for you guys. So we'll have a new full-length fundamentals course coming towards the end of next month, as well as many new quick tips videos. So lots of resources to help you get better acquainted with Mylio Photos as a whole and a lot of the new features that are coming. So in case you're curious what that looks like, here's me in the studio last week. I'll go ahead and click on that. You guys can see a bigger view over in there teaching. And then we've got a few here of JC over there in the studio. And so this is what we do to make content for you guys. Now, these are what I would consider work images. And this is where this ties in with categories, is I can use these in the future to separate my work photos from my personal images. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Command or Control key and select all of these images. And I want to apply the work category to all of these photos. And work is one that comes built into Mylio. You have more than 40 that you can customize any way you want, but this is one that's locked and you can go ahead and just add it whenever you like. So you can select images, open up the info panel, go down to categories. So you can go down here to categories and simply click that plus button, and that's going to pull up the categories list. From here, you can click on the pencil to edit this list, add new ones, change how they're ordered and so forth. But for right now, I'm going to just go ahead and choose work and apply, and ask me to confirm because I'm adding this to several media. So I'm going to go ahead and say set. And now each of these images is set with the work category. From here, if I wanted to go over to QuickFilters, and I'm just going to go ahead and select a different image, and you can twirl down the by category option here, go down to work and click on that. And that's going to jump you to see all of your work photos, everything you've added the category of work to. So if you are a professional photographer, for instance, and you want to keep all of your professional photos, all of those pictures of people that you don't know that well, you took those pictures for professional purposes, you want to keep those separate from the ones of your friends and your families and your adventures. This is one great way to do that. And another thing you can do here is if you want to see something, you can go ahead and select that category. If you want to hide everything in that category, all you have to do is go up here to the top, right click or long tap and say exclude. And that's going to go ahead and switch that so you're seeing everything except for those work photos. So this is a great way to go through and just organize and be able to get to what you want in your library and work with the things that matter to you in that moment. So for right now, let me go ahead and close this. And I'm going to go ahead and add a few more filters or a few more categories to these images. Let me go ahead and select a bunch of these here from traveling. And I don't know about you, but when I'm on a plane, I'm bored. And I take a lot of pictures with my phone, a lot of clouds, different aerial shots from across the country. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these as travel. I selected this entire range of images, everything that's highlighted with blue. And again, I can go down here to categories, hit that plus, and I can mark these as travel. So again, this makes them easy to find. Now, it might be a little bit time consuming and tedious to go through your entire library image by image. I agree. And so there's a few other ways that you can add categories. Let me jump over to my folders view, and I'm going to go down to my fast photo folders. So these are images that I've scanned in from prints that I've had around my house. These are typically friends and family and personal. So what I'm going to do is select that folder, and I can add a category to everything that's in that folder. Again, you open up the info panel on the right, go down to categories, click that plus button, and then you can add those categories as necessary. So for here, let's go ahead and say family and friends, and we'll go ahead and mark that as personal. Click apply. And now every picture, once we go in here and take a look at these pictures, those are going to have the inherited categories because we added it to the folder. So that picture inherits the categories of personal, family, and friends. All right, so that's another way to do this. The third way you can do this today is to add categories to events. So if you go over to the calendar view, and I'm going to jump here into 2023, and go back one level here. There we go. And into this month, I mentioned that I was traveling last week doing those recordings for Mylio. So I want to create an event from the day that I left on the 21st to the day that I returned on the 26th. So let's go over here and click event. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in as a date range. So I can select the first date, which is the 21st, and save. And the date end, that would be the 26th, and save. And now I can say Mylio recording. And I can put a description if I like. And then again, here's categories. So I can go ahead and click on this, and then every picture that I've taken during this date range is going to then get labeled with this category. So I can go ahead and say this is all travel, this is all work, and click apply. And now all of those images within that date range, regardless of what folder they're in, or if I had marked them previously, are going to inherit the category from the event. I can then go ahead and click save. And then if I go back to, let's say, my all photos view and click any of the images from this trip. So here's one that I took at the airport. As I was getting ready to leave, you can see it inherited the category of work and travel. That is the way that you can add categories to your files today. In the future, you're going to also be able to add them to people, and you're also going to be able to add categories as you import. So if you take a memory card out of your camera, you pop it into the card reader and launch an import into Mylio, you can add a category right there. And that's going to be another quick and convenient way to make sure everything gets categorized so we can then use this new big and upcoming feature. One other thing I wanted to mention before we go any further is how to edit that category list. So there's two ways to get there. I mentioned here, if you click on the plus and click on the pencil, that's way number one. The second way is from the More menu, choose Settings, Organization, and Categories. It's going to get you to the exact same place, so it doesn't matter which one you choose, just use the one that's most convenient for you. From here, you can go ahead and work with all these different categories. So the ones that don't have an X here on the right, you can see that some of these as I scroll down do, these ones are locked and cannot be changed. Once you go down here to the ones that have an X, I could delete these, I can rename them, and I can even add additional ones. If you want to reorder this list, you can grab the handle and just drag it up or down on the list so you can see the ones that are most important to you at the top. For me, like calendar import, I don't use that very often, so I can move that all the way down to the bottom. And so that way it's kind of out of the way. I can go ahead and click on any one of these words and change it. Click on the X to delete it. And you can even change the color label here to one of the pre-selected colors or choose a custom color. So lots of flexibility here. And the colors are really helpful, especially when you're looking at your life calendar. So you remember that I added that one event for work to my calendar. So everything that's labeled work, let's see, go up here, is going to have a red dot. So when I go back to the calendar, that's going to be a red label there on my calendar. So you can color code your calendar to make it fit whatever you like. All right, well, let's jump into the next version of Mylio. And fair warning here, this is not even quite a beta build. This is what we call an alpha build. It's still a little bit raw. And I'm streaming this in from a different computer, so it might seem even laggier than usual. That's not what you guys are going to get when this is released, but I want to give you a taste of what you're building towards when you're using categories. So Lori, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can.
Excellent. Okay, so for spaces, that's going to be to click this little icon here on the left. And what that opens up are these different workspaces. So anything that's categorized as family, we can go ahead and click on that. You'll see that that switches to the family workspace here at the top, and it's limited the number of total media to 217. So this is going to give you a nice clean view of what you're working with and what you want to work with. Now, let me go ahead and open this up really quick and take a look at some of these built-in spaces. So some of these are going to be available to all users, whether you're using Mylio Photos Free or Mylio Photos Plus. And then some of these are going to be available just to our Mylio Photos Plus subscribers. If you are a Mylio Photos Plus subscriber, you will also have access to this family space, the workspace, and be able to make custom spaces. So that's going to be a real big benefit for anybody who's a paying subscriber and, you know, kind of a good motivation to get Mylio Photos Plus. It's going to help you really keep things segmented, especially if you're using your library for many different purposes. Everybody else is going to have access to the public space, personal, private, guest, and everything. So everything is going to be everything in your library, no matter what. Private is going to be those things that you might be a little bit embarrassed if they popped up in the middle of, let's say, a business meeting. You know, maybe it's an off-color meme that you saved, or I know some people like to take pictures of injuries and things like that. Sometimes those are good to have records of, but you don't necessarily want to show them to everybody. Private is the perfect place to put those things. Guest is going to be when you hand your device over to somebody else and you let them flip through it. And you're going to be able to have that pin coded to where they can only do certain things. So that makes it very, very easy. Public is going to be all of those things in your library that you don't mind if anybody sits there and, you know, they just start swiping. They're not going to see something they're not supposed to. So this is just going to be a great tool for managing your library. Another aspect that's coming along with Spaces is for our Mylio Photos Plus subscribers, you're going to be able to remotely control and set up other devices. So if you're sharing devices with multiple people in your family, you can give very granular controls to certain people. If you have a child, you have a device for them and you want them to be able to browse their pictures and you want to be able to back up their images, but you don't want them to delete or edit or do anything that's going to compromise your library or to see those private pictures, you can certainly set up those permissions. So there's going to be a lot of stuff coming in version 24. And we really hope you guys are excited about it, because I know I am, and I can't wait to put this to use on my personal library. And I hope you enjoyed this little look here at what we have going in Mylio Photos version 24. And pop into the chat and see what we've got going on. And this is a great time. Go ahead.
Nope. That's great. Yeah, good time to ask your questions. George had one, and he's asking, with categories, do you find yourself relying less on keywords?
I use them for different things. So categories are very broad, and you're limited to, I think the max number right now is 47 custom categories. Keywords are going to get much more granular, and it's just a matter of what you need to use them for and what you're searching for. Keywords are saved to your metadata. Those are perpetual. So if you decide at some point to leave Mylio, all of your keywords go with your pictures. They're in those XMP files and can be read by just about any program out there. Categories are specific to Mylio. That's a great question, though. And then Harold said, what is calendar import? So if you have a connected linked calendar within Mylio, so one of the things you can do is you can add a Google Calendar, an Outlook calendar, and so forth. And any events that you have on that calendar, they can be brought into Mylio Photos, and they make events based on those calendar events on your personal digital calendar. It makes those events in Mylio if pictures exist for that day or that time range. Depending on how your calendar is set up, it can be a wonderful thing, or it can make, personally, I think it makes a bit of a mess out of my calendar. I don't use it, but anything you use that functionality for will be labeled with the calendar import category. Coming in the next, I would say 6 months, we're going to be overhauling how those linked calendars work, and you're going to have much more flexibility on being able to look at those calendar events and say, yes, I want to add this, or no, I don't want to add this. And that's going to be brilliant and make those far more useful. Karen says, well, categories ever be hierarchical? Probably not, because we only have a limit to about 47 of those that you can add customizable, but we are working on hierarchical keywords. So there you go. As far as having family names in a larger family category, we are also working on groups or families. So you're going to have the ability in the future to automatically group together your immediate family, your extended family, friends, acquaintances, and so forth. So that is coming. But for right now, you can use categories as kind of a stopgap until we get there. All right, George, you have a question about adding new pictures. Go for it.
Yes. The other day I took some pictures with my camera, and then I uploaded them to Google Drive.
Okay.
But they didn't show up in Mylio for 2 or 3 days.
So Mylio does not read pictures. It does not import from Google Drive. You can set up Mylio Drive as a vault, so it uses it as a storage and backup source,
Yeah,
but it's not a source that you can read your files. Were they taken with, like, when you say they brought them into Google Photos, were you able to like browse them in your camera roll on your phone or something like that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that might be how Mylio got them. So if you uploaded them to Google Photos and then they got downloaded to your phone, your camera roll, then Mylio was able to see them and bring them in from your camera roll. But it cannot read them directly from Google Photos. So what I would recommend with your card is to pop it into your computer, launch Mylio Photos, and directly import into Mylio Photos and bypass Google Drive altogether.
Directly import. I don't think I know how to do that.
Lori, if you could pull up the instructions in the manual for importing from a memory card, but I'll show you here really quick. If you click on Add Media and Add Media accessible from this device, when you connect a memory card, it's going to show up as one of your locations. And you simply select the memory card, and it's like adding and copying media from anything else.
Okay, I've done that. Okay, I got you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Let's see what else we got here.
It looks like Millie had a question. She wanted to see categories and calendars again.
Oh, absolutely. So let me jump back over here to my calendar. And you can see these are different events that I've added to my Mylio Photos Life calendar. And different ones have different colors because of those categories. So if I go ahead and jump here to 2023, you can see different ones. There's more as I go through the year. There's different settings you can say as to how many of these appear on the calendar at once. That's probably a topic for a different coffee break, but it's all in the manual if you want to take a look at using events in Mylio. And again, here's that Mylio recording trip. I can click on that and it takes me to all of the pictures that I took within that particular date range. So that's how those work on the calendar. Any other questions, Millie? All right. So let's see here, Gerald, I just recently started using Mylio and have a question. In the Open With menu, it shows Corel Draw 22, not 2023. I have both installed. How do I get them to be there? Great question. So if you're on a Mac, it's very, very easy. You're just going to go to Photo, Open With, and go down to Other. If you're on Windows, there's a few more steps, and I'll have to grab that manual entry for you. So it'll walk you through how to get those added to the list. But unfortunately, the Windows operating system makes it a little bit harder. See, Lori, are you able to grab that particular article? So George says, with spaces, will there be the ability to have multiple workspaces and put different groups of images in? And will we have the ability to edit images in the workspace? Absolutely. If you have Mylio Photos Plus, you can create custom spaces. So you can have, studio work, portrait work. You could have, your landscape and travel work. If you have different types of work photography, or you have different projects, you're going to have, I don't think there's any limit to the number of spaces that you're going to be able to have. So that is one really cool thing. So yes, you can have multiple workspaces, and you can always change the categories that you add. So if you, accidentally add one to, work 1 and it needs to be in work 2, you should be able to change that. All right. Harold, looks like you're looking forward to spaces and categories. I'm so glad. All right. And Gerald, cool. Looks like Lori got that article for you. So hopefully that walks you through it. If you need additional assistance, feel free always to reach out to our support team or post a question into the community. We're there to help. Both Lori and I hang out there, pretty much every day and are checking for new questions. So always happy to assist you there as well. But it looks like we got through all the questions in the chat. Are there any other questions that anybody wants to unmute and ask? All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this overview of categories and why you should be using them. And I hope I gave you some good reasons to start using them today, because I think it's going to empower you to be even that much more prepared once you get in and start using spaces. If you already have categories in the mix, you're going to be able to jump into the next version and put those spaces to use. And it's going to change the way you work with your pictures. I'm very excited about version 24, and I hope you guys are too. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up and wish you guys a wonderful rest of your week. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.